Unmute. Hi, everyone. Nice to see so many people here early, which is always great. I'm just going to give it until like 4 minutes, 5 minutes past, just before we kick things off. I should probably ask, actually, if anyone can hear me. Otherwise, it'd be quite awkward. So if someone can just put in the chat or give me a thumbs up that they can hear me, that would be fantastic. Brilliant. I'm going to give it until 5 past for others to kind of trickle in. So if you need a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, now's the time. Or just even a glass of water. Always nice to set yourself up for success, as it were. But yeah, we'll look to kick things off at about 5 past. So yeah, I'll see you back then. It's always the same when you do these sorts of things, isn't it? Where you have an initial cohort of people that you say something to, and then others trickle in after you've said it. So for the benefit of anyone that's just joining, I'll give it until 4 or 5 minutes past, just to allow time for others to join in that may be a little behind or coming out of meetings. And then we'll look to kick things off at 5 past. But any initial questions or anything you have, or if you want to introduce yourself into the chat, that'd be great. Or maybe your experience level of MindView, what you're hoping to get out of today. That would be all useful information. So, you know, if you're feeling brave enough to put it out there to the world, feel free to do so. Cool. Whilst we wait for others then, is there anyone that's come over from the basic session that we ran last week? Yeah, cool. There was a problem, by the way, of sharing that video out. So just know that it is being worked on. I think the Teams link that gets sent out after you've registered, it wasn't able to be accessed by users at DWP. So I'm aware of that, just so everyone knows. So we're working on either putting it up as a Vimeo or like a YouTube video on our channel on the MatchWare YouTube page, basically. So when that's up and all good to go, I'll let you know. So I'll send out an email letting you know, and I'll link to it as well. So you can refer back to the basic session that we ran, as well as then an advanced session. I should also mention, actually, that I have my colleague David here in the chat. So if you have any questions, you know, as David's monitoring the chat today, anything that's a really difficult question, by all means, put it in the chat, and hopefully David can pick it up. And I've had feedback from the last session as well, wherein some people were happy with the pace, others weren't. So what I've decided to do today is kind of change it up a little bit. I'll go through like specific examples. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things I want to show you today. It'll follow a different format in that I won't necessarily run through, you know, the basics and build that kind of story of doing it. I'll more just say, this is something you can do, what you may consider to be advanced or just something that you may not be aware of. This is how you do it on a basic level. Then when you're looking back at the recording, play around with a bit more of how you can use it with your particular workflow. So again, I'm not going to go through anything super in depth now. The idea of today is just to provide a high level overview of some of the advanced features that are baked into MindView. The idea would be to improve your learning, take that knowledge, but then go and try and expand on it yourselves then in your own time. Naturally, what I'll show you today is what I consider still useful, but I'm not really going to go into like hardcore nitty gritty on anything, because honestly, we'd need like a 4-hour session for that. What I would say, though, is that if anyone wants to feedback to the powers that be that you find these sessions useful, and bear in mind, they've been like high level so far, the basic and this one will be high level. But if you do want to go into more in-depth analysis of certain aspects of MindView, I'm more than happy to kind of facilitate all of that, but it just needs to be fed back to, as I say, the powers that be within DWP, just to kind of make a case for why it's worthwhile to do. So if you enjoy these and you want more analysis on different things, yeah, feed that back and it'll only help them with you running through things and, you know, getting bored with the sound of my voice again. Cool, so we've got a minute and then I'll kick things off. So thanks for bearing with me. And thanks for everyone, by the way, for introducing yourselves. It's I'll read through these more so than after the run through today. But yeah, it's good to know your experience level. It's good to know what your job role is at DWP, how maybe you've used MindView already, to then help me be informed as to what we can do it for next time. And I'll drop this in the chat then firstly, but this, well, what I'll drop now is a link to a forms page that works really well in helping me understand a bit more of what you're using MindView for, as well as then what we can improve going forward. That's just a forms link. It takes like 2 minutes, honestly. You don't at all have to fill it in. Not like prerequisite for attending today's session or anything like that. If you got 2 minutes spare though, it just helps us develop a tool and hopefully build in features then that you guys want to see and want to use and make use of. So yeah, any and all feedback would be greatly appreciated. Okay, cool. So it's 5 past. I'm very appreciative of your time as well. If you've got questions, put them in the chat and we'll do our best to kind of monitor those for you. If there's anything that we miss, I'll try and come back to that a bit later. And for those that weren't here, I'm well aware of the videos not being able to be viewed by you at DWP. So we're going to put them up on Vimeo or YouTube, and then I'll provide links to where you can access that for the basic session we ran last week, and then this more advanced session. Now what I'll do is the classic. If someone could kindly let me know that you can see the screen to make sure all the tech is working properly, that would be amazing. Perfect, thank you. So just to recap then the basic sessions. So we went through a bit more of some of the accessibility enhancements built into MindView, like the dictate, read aloud, predictive suggestions, that kind of thing. And also we went through them basic functionality where we built out a mind map, but then also started to add in information. So that would be like text notes, the pictures, the visual cues, attachments, and any hyperlinks. Then we went through the export specifically to Word and PowerPoint and how that might look. Just know those two are really good then if you're putting together a report or you're presenting something like a project you're working on. And then we briefly would have touched on the different views. So what I was hoping to go through with you today, again, in kind of a different format, well, I'll do just feature how it works, feature how it works, as it may work better for you. But I'm going to go through a bit more of imports and what you need to be mindful of there. You can export Word, for example, from a mind map, but also you can import and it'll generate one for you. I'll go through the calculation tool, which you might then use to build in some functions, kind of like Excel, that you can use for cost analysis, maybe on a project you're working on. I'll also then loop back to an assistive feature, which is conditional formatting, where it changes colors then based on completion percentage in the example I'll run through, but I'll show you a bit more of what you can use it for there. Then I'll go through our project report that you can export your Gantt chart out to. So that's really cool then, and I'll show you a bit more of the drag and drop functionality and everything else within the Gantt view. Then I'll go through our Capture Toolbar, which is a really nice way of pulling in information that may also be relevant to what you're working on, which works in the same way as the mobile companion app. So if I show you one, it's kind of like showing you two. And then lastly, I'll show you very briefly our task management system, which may be a bit different to the Kanban task management, where you move it through these different swim lanes. This one will be more tasks that you can send yourself or others within your organization that also have MindView, to let them know a bit more of what they can do. So if everyone is all keen for that, fantastic. If not, nothing keeping you here. You know, you're not my prisoners. So if it's not for you, it's not for you. I can appreciate that, but that's the plan of action basically. And I'll go through it at a bit of a slower pace as, yeah, I had that fed back to me last time, a few times. So take our time, walk through it leisurely, and I'll leave some time for questions at the end as well. Cool, so with the imports then, the best way to learn this is if you create a mind map like I have, export this out to Word, then use that export to import back into MindView. And the reason I say that is because it'll export with the hierarchy that we've created here. So the numbering scheme gives us a visual of the structure of what we're doing. So planning's first, all the way through to sales. It works in that clockwise motion. So then that structure or that hierarchy needs to be present in the word example that you then import back into MindView. Some key considerations here are that it needs to have that header in style, which if you open Word, you'll see word styles. There's like a word styles pane. Yes. So the cursor, yeah, I don't know. How would I change the color of the cursor as someone that is not too familiar with doing it? If anyone can add that in a kind of condensed way of doing it, I'm happy to do it. But whilst I'll wait for my tech friends in the chat to help me out with that one, just make sure you have a header in style in the document. Okay, I'll do that now. It's imperative that you do that if you are importing from something, because what it means then is that MindView knows exactly how to add in the information. It'll know what should be a branch or main branch, what should be a sub branch, and then also what should be a sub branch. And the key here is that if we're building this out with Word and you've added in that numbering scheme, also then make sure that you're not adding in the body text of what you're writing as the headers and subheaders. So I think I've got something really cool here. Well, let me know if you can. I think this is going to smash this, by the way. How's that? Hopefully that one works a bit better for you. Are we all good on the mouse cursor? Ah, nice. So yeah, I'm just saying with the imports then, use the headering scheme. When you open Word, you'll see word styles, 1.1, 1.11, kind of like what you access then if you go to home and numbering scheme. These here and how we've dictated it on our mind map is how then it should be in the Word example when you import. Avoid using body text as the headers, because then if you're creating main branches, like 1, that's your header, the body text then would be the paragraph where you don't number it. And also keep it clean in terms of try to avoid tables or text boxes or embedded images. MindView is great for exporting and using this for report writing, and it's great with the imports also, but it's not like a magician or anything. It needs to understand how you've structured a document for it to accurately then import that and generate a mind map for you. That's just some basic, points to touch on or consider there. And the file format needs to be a docx when you import that. Then all you do to actually start importing a document is go File and Import. So in the last session, we would have gone through Export. Just under that is Import, where you click on the buttons on the left here. So import, and you can see these are the things that we can import from. Loving this color, by the way. I think this purple really works well with what we're doing here. For Microsoft Word. And you can see there's just an example of the product launch that I exported out to. And I will import that back in because it's already in that headering scheme, or it has that structure to it. So it'll work really well. Just select it and then press Open and Import. This now, albeit in a different style, is the imported document that we exported from this mind map. And you can see how well it's worked because it has that headering scheme and that structure to it. And it knows then what should be a text note, what should be a branch, a sub-branch, and a sub-sub-branch, and so on. So that's just some key considerations for the import. The best way to learn this is to just get stuck in, play around with it a bit more, see exactly what you can do and what you can't, and actually use just a big wall of text and try importing that to MindView. And you'll probably find it'll add it in with like 200 of these branches stemming from your central topic. So that then means that you should go into Word, Word styles at the top, and select a headering scheme. You can import any Word document that you'd like to, provided that it has that structure to it. That's the first thing. That's a really light one, hopefully, to start with. Exports works really well. Imports does, provided it has the structure to it. And again, this recording will be sent out as well. So just to recap quickly, file, import, select the docx that you've saved onto your desktop or wherever it is, and then open and go through the process then of importing it. And you'll get something like this. Really good actually for breaking complex documentation down into this visual action plan, which is, catering to the visual workers amongst us or people that may use MindView. So the calculation feature then is a really nice way of providing cost analysis for a project you're working on. So this product launch mind map is the one that we used last time. So I'm just kind of continuing that over. And on the right here, you'll see some different buttons. You'll have task, calculation, pictures, icons, and research. Task, for example, relates to what I briefly touched on last time, where if we select this one, that's where we can input scheduling information like duration or start and end date, even assign priorities, completion percentage, or you can create and manage resources here. So play around with that. That's accessed through the task panel on the right. Underneath that is calculation. Just give that one a click. And what you'll find then is something not too dissimilar to Excel will pop up in this panel. This is perfect for me, for example, as someone that has to do or use Excel quite regularly, but isn't actually at all that good at it. So instead of then me having to start with a blank Excel workbook, I think it's called, I can then use mind map and still add in calculations or functions for what I need to provide a cost analysis for. In this case, a product launch. All you'd need to do to get started is select one of these branches. So in my case, setup team, and you can see I've selected it as it's highlighted by this blue bar. Then you'll see something here pops up where I can start to input names for things. So my basic example is going to be cost, hour, and then total. So I know, for example, cost times hour is the total. I want to add that in as a default calculation for all of the mind map. So what I would do then is calculation, but then come down to defaults here. Then we'll set that as a default for this mind map. Click on that one, and this pop-up box appears. This then is where we can start to add in whatever it is that you need to provide that costings for. I'll rewrite that one as I don't like it with the caps. I can do cost, I'll do hour. The mouse is ridiculously huge, by the way, get in the way now, and then total. You can build this out as extensive as you'd like to or not, or just play around with this basic example for now and be creative with it. Maybe try and build it into what your particular workflow is. Yes, you can, by the way, just looking at the chat, PowerPoint. That's fine too. Then with default, so again, we want to create a default function now with cost times hour is total. So all you'd need to do is come to the total bar here under default and click the left mouse button twice on the right side of it. And this is where you'll see this function appear with the drop down. You click on this one. This is where I can do then cost. Then I want to do times. And then I want to do hour. That's the calculation then for cost and hour. So that's how I'll calculate things easily. Then over here, if I double click again, is where I can associate, I don't know, a dollar sign to it. So I can apply that to total and cost. Naturally, it wouldn't make much sense if I did with hour. Then we can OK that. And then you'll see if we start to move around the mind map, on the top right then of this calculation box, under the calculation tab on the right, is active for any of these branches, which means then that we can actually start to just move around the mind map and add in the values and the hours. You'll see when we do that, it provides the calculation for us at the branch level. So just under the branch, as some additional information for how much it's going to cost to set up my team. So naturally then you can just work around your mind map and do this with any number of different things. So I'm just going to add some in really quickly for you just to demonstrate it. And I'll show you also then what you can do that's a bit more expansive than this, some of the additional options that you can select from. Is the pacing good this time? Just checking in. If it's not, let me know. If you want me to go faster this time, I can do. But if it's decent, I will stick with as is. Cool, so I've just added in then some default calculations, a default function then to pull that in for me easily. And I've just added in some costings and some hours relative to different tasks for the project I'm working on. Starting to calculate costings for deliverables and tasks for our project of setting up a product launch, kicking things off. Just notice the Q&A is active as well, so I'm just going to dip in there. We'll come back to those a bit later, if that's okay. Now what we want to do is roll these values up so we'll understand product launch. You'll see that it's pretty empty there at the moment. So all we need to do then to calculate what all this adds up to for our product launch is highlight all of these main branches. And then you'll see where we have total, that's what we want to change now because it'll be cost times hour equals total. But instead, I want the sum of all these sub branches to roll up into that product launch. So then again, click twice the side of this bar here, the total bar, to get that function box. Come down to subtopics and sum, because I want to collect the sum of everything. And you'll see it rolls things up for us now. So I can understand really easily that the product launch is going to cost $253,795. Naturally, if you put pound sterling in there, it would be pound sterling. I just chose dollars for the fun of it. You can see now how instead of having to use Excel for this, which may put a lot of people off, certainly if you're neurodivergent, for example, or prefer to work visually, we can do it then in MindView. So it kind of is a way of encapsulating everything we need to work on and using some of the features within MindView to do that. Just to show you before I show you the export here, if we come back to the function, you can see there's loads of different things that you can select from. So I would advise there just dipping into here and trying them all out. Just to run through some, you can collect the average, min, max, or count something, as well as the sum like we did. There's things that pertain specifically to the Gantt mode you can kind of select from. Start and end dates, duration, completion percentage, that kind of thing. There's some maths and trigonometry things in there. You know, feel free to dip into that one if you're feeling brave. Some financials, and also then other where you can put date, year, month, and kind of build out functions then based on what you're looking for. This calculation feature is in MindView 8. This one wouldn't be specific to 9. Once you're happy with the calculations that you built out or added in at the branch level for your mind map, in the same place as we accessed the export to Word and PowerPoint in the basic session, it's just file and export. You see Word, PowerPoint. Yeah, you can import, export from this. Then Excel, pick this one instead, and then custom export. Then we've got templates that you can select from. And the general tab, as with the Word example, is where we can take things out or add things into the export. Once happy, press export. And as with Word, then we can save this to SharePoint or save it locally. And it's just going to initialize things for us in the same way that it did with. And I think then this is a much easier way into working with Excel, someone that is definitely a visual worker myself. And I don't need to be upskilled too much in actually using Excel either, because I can still put together something like this. And I'll make the point here that if I started with this in Excel, it would have taken me a lot longer to put together than it did with MindView. And you can see it's added in all the calculations nice and easily for us, as well as then the resources that we would have built out in the task panel, which is above calculation on the sidebar in MindView, where we would add duration, start and end dates, that kind of thing. But I think this is really cool then because it has this collapsible buttons on the side wherein I can just collapse everything and I can have a really nice overview of what the product launch is going to cost, what the deliverables are going to cost, then the work packages when I expand everything out. And again, versus starting here, I'd still be working on probably just filling in product launch and building out the legend, for example. So hopefully this just demonstrates an easier way of using MindView to produce maybe what's expected of you in Excel. And as with the import feature, where you need to create that hierarchy, header and schemes. Play around with this as well. There's some really cool things in that calculation bar that you can press, like with the functions that popped up, that calculate the averages, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of interesting results then populated under branch in your mind map. Definitely worth checking out and trying to break. Best way to learn any of this. So hopefully it's making sense so far. And again, I'll try and read through any questions and come back to them either on this call or like with an email. But what I want to do now is loop back to an assistive feature that I find honestly transformative for the way that I like to process task information. Wherein for me, it's a lot easier to manage tasks if I associate them with colors when they're in different states. So that is then, if it's in not started, it's no color. If it's in progress, it'll pop up as a really horrible red color, providing then me that motivation to want to complete it, clear the deck, so to speak. And then when it's in 100%, to get that sense of accomplishment and completion, I want it to pop up as a nice soothing green color. That then gives me great satisfaction when I'm managing my tasks. Say I have 10 red tasks. When I start to move those through to that green state, it's honestly an amazing feeling. So for anyone that works in a similar way, this is what I'm about to show you basically. So to do that, just start with a new mind map, go new and click on mind map here, just the one that comes up as subject. Name it anything. Let's just do project 1. Then I'm going to create task 1 and task 2. Just to recap, to create these branches, just press enter, just start typing, and then you've got your new task built out. Insert would create these additional levels. But what I want to do now is add in a conditional formatting rule that says when I move it through different states of completion, it's going to pop up as a different color. So to do that, it's under the View tab, the ribbon toolbar at the top. Just a word of warning, if you have simple interface, the button on the far right checked, then you come to View, you won't see the conditional formatting button. What you'd need to do is click on View, click on Simple Interface or uncheck it, and then you'll see conditional formatting here. So what I want to do now then is conditional formatting. I want to create a new filter. Then you'll see this pop-up box. Add a level here basically means add a rule. You click on this, this pops up. It comes up as like a line item, so you can add any number of those if you want to make it more complex. I'll stick to the 1 for now. And I want to say then, when completion percentage, you can see there's lots of other things that you can relate this to as well. Topic comments and start and end dates and text notes and all that kind of stuff. But I want to go completion percentage, as I've mentioned. When that's equal to, although again, lots of different things that we can select there. If it's greater than, not equal to, all the kind of usual stuff you might expect. But I'm going to go equal to, when completion is equal to, and the value, I'm going to write in here 50, which in MindView talk means in progress. 0 is not started. 100 then is completed. I want to OK that. And I want it to be this bright, horrible red color. And I'm going to OK it. This then carries across all these different views. So for example, if I click on task 1 here, then go to task on the top right, this again is where we can add in scheduling information, but also update our completion percentage. Then if I select this and select 50, a task now turns to red. And what actually I want to do is add in a new rule, add a level, add a rule, that when the completion percentage is equal to 100, turn it to a nicer green color. God, not that color, let's do this one. Maybe that's not such a nice green color, but you get the idea. Then when I go to completion 100%, it'll pop up as that green color. So this works on the mind map level, meaning that you can kind of play around with completion percentages and have that visual signpost into tasks that need your attention and tasks that you've completed at the mind map level. But it's really beneficial then when you go to the Kanban view. And this then is where it displays these in those swim lanes for you. So a Kanban board is like Trello for anyone that's used that. It's a way of like monitoring tasks and moving them through different states. Just to recap, design here is where we can change that to priority. or the resources. Naturally, this is a new mind map, so we haven't added in any resources, which we would do in the task panel and resources. We haven't done that here. So when we move the design to resources, there's nothing there. But for our one and our rules, completion percentage is where we need to go. We're in task 1. It's not started. Cool. I can add in the rule, of course, that if it's not started, it's red or a different color. But then when it's in progress, I can see that it's red here, which then if I'm looking at this, just means then that I should prioritize, and it gives me that motivation to finish the tasks that I have in progress, because that would drive me crazy looking at that red color. The Kanban is used for task management through swim lanes, through different columns where you move it through different states. It's a nice visual signpost into, you've got a list of 100 tasks. Instead of looking at them in a linear list, it's a nice way then of understanding where you are with each task, because you can move it through not started in progress completed. This is specific to MindView 9, which I've been told to let you know, as I did with the basic session, is on the way. So it's in development for you to have that deployed at DWP. So this is one to get excited about, basically, and it's just a follow-on of what I mentioned of the Kanban in the basic session. So sorry if I'm teasing it too much, but then once you have it deployed and you watch back the recording, the reason why I'm showing this is because honestly, if you're a visual worker, you'll maybe buzz a bit more then on seeing your red tasks move to green. And I know it's a popular feature for those that are using MindView 9. But that is specific to MindView 9. You won't have this in 8, just to be clear. Hopefully it makes sense though. And again, you can refer back to this then you do have MindView 9 and you can kind of play around with all the additional features there. I'd certainly love to do that, just looking at the chat. But as I mentioned earlier, I think it's beneficial if you guys could feed this back to the powers that be and just impress upon the importance of rolling out trainings like this, because I think it's something we love doing. And I know that it does help in some way just having someone talk through this, even if it's totally unrelated to your particular workflow, because you've all got that kind of reference point down that you can either watch back in the recording or you've internalized, and you'll be prompted to at least think about doing these things then when you have full access to the new version. So I'm all for it, but just feed it back then to whoever needs to be fed back to. This next feature is indeed in MindView 8, so play around with it. But what I want to do then is close off what we can do with conditional formatting. Absolutely, I agree totally on it being beneficial. I want to go to a Gantt view here now, which, just to remind everyone, is a great way of putting together a Gantt chart if you're using a mind map, where if you're like me and you weren't at all used to putting one together, because I hadn't had the opportunity to do so, or just wasn't asked of me ever leading up until working for or with MindView. So I wouldn't know if I started with this, how to put this together. Benefit here, of course, is that I can go to View and Mind Map and build out all of my ideas, add in my scheduling information through this task panel. It's still in that visual format for me. Then when I change that to the Gantt chart, it's just going to display it in a way then that resonates more with a project manager or someone in the engineering field. It allows like playing to your strengths a bit more, in that you don't need to be upskilled in how to put a Gantt chart together to put one together. You can just crack on with the mind map and then change it over to this view. That drag and drop, by the way, is the same through all these views. Just like with the Kanban board, we can move these to different swim lanes. So can you update this task here? Try and drag it in a way that you can see it now, because I've been ridiculous with the size of this. Because if I move it there, the yellow box lets me know the start date changing. Because the task length is 6 days, the end date will change as well. Then if we add in a new completion percentage, you'll see it'll update this critical task as well with how far through that task we are. Then also, if you double click on this task information panel, which I'm struggling to do with this mouse cursor, only in this view will a more in-depth task information panel appear. So naturally, you can go through all the usuals, where you can name it, add in duration, start and end dates, completion percentage, priority, the same stuff as you'll find in the task panel on the right. But you can go a step further then if you are using this for a project management tool. This is where you can select your constraint types. constraint dates, a deadline for this particular task, set tasks as effort-driven, set them as milestones, and also where you can manage your project resources. So with project resources, again, you can access it through the taskbar on the right, or you can just access it from this Gantt view if it's easier. And you can even link there. If you click Address Book here and Outlook, you can even link it to other people that you work with. My colleague Ben here, I'll add him as a project resource and OK it. And then you'll see at the bottom of the list here now, Ben is a resource for me that I can assign to the task that I've selected here, which is submit something. This is also where we can manage predecessors. And also, again, you'll have a resources panel where click one here and add now Ben as a resource to the project. So again, it's super easy to add this information in. You can do it in the mind map view, but also in this Gantt view then, if you just double click on one of these, you'll see something a bit more in-depth then. So if you are used to Gantt charts and project management, it may be easier for you to access this information through this panel. But of course, there's buttons at the top that you can access the same sort of stuff as well. If I wanted to manipulate my project calendar, for example, project calendars, I can manipulate that information here. Change the working hours, for example, for our day-to-day. Something that I think is really brilliant about this is that you can then share this project report with someone. You can export this as a project report in HTML and then share with someone else. You'll see project reports top right here. If I'm then having to relay my Gantt chart to someone else that wants like a high-level overview of the project I'm working on with the assigned tasks, anything that's overdue, the resources, the project calendars, all that kind of stuff. Project reports, top right of the ribbon toolbar and the Gantt tools. Give that one a click, and you'll see we can export this out then into a report. So just go through the motions of naming it and saving it. And then this export here is the direct output of our Gantt chart, which actually would be the direct output from our mind map as well. If we're doing it in the mind map first, we'll then change it to our Gantt chart, and then we'll produce a project report based on that information. You'll see firstly, you have project, which is the central topic, the author, our start and end date for our project, and the assigned resources. You'll see Ben's now there, because he's one that we added in our management of the project resources that we just clicked in task information. There's our defined project calendar. And naturally, we could add in Saturdays and Sundays if we're feeling particularly mean. Then as we scroll down, you'll get a really nice overview of the task status, anything that relates to our product launch project in my example. You'll see you'll have an understanding of your summary tasks, overdue tasks, critical tasks. If we go at the top here, we get a nice overview then of each of these. Milestones, project calendar. Then tasks, we'll have our task list, our task status, anything that's unstarted, and anything that's overdue. Then with resources, we can see and understand resource allocation. Ben is working on the task there that I assigned him to when I managed the resources then when I double clicked on that specific task in the Gantt view. Resource costs, workload, anything you'd like. Then you've got your agile task management Kanban view. So this is a really nice overview then that you can share with someone else that wants to understand a bit more of where you're at with your project. Play around with that one. This is the screen that you'll see where you have your outline, where you can manipulate the information here as well if it's easier than drag and drop. And anything specific to this Gantt view would appear under Gantt tools. If we move this view to Kanban, you would have Kanban tools. And anything specific to the Kanban would be under that tab at the top. The same is said for Gantt tools. Anything specific here? Yes, if we go home, all the usual suspects appear. The things that we can add into the mind map. The Gantt tools, naturally, project reports, project baselines, and your resources and the project calendars are only really going to be specific to the Gantt view. But bear in mind, we still can, in the mind map view, add in the start and end dates, the duration, the completion percentage. You can still build out these bars and produce a Gantt chart without all the in-depth stuff with the mind map, which may be an easier in then if you're working with someone that is not at all familiar with how to put this together, or actually someone then that is a project manager but wants to relay this information to someone that isn't, because then they could start here or import from Microsoft Project, export to it as well, by the way. This is best described as like Microsoft Project Lite, a more accessible version or an easier to use. For those that have used Microsoft Project, it can be quite information overload. So this is like an easier into project management, or certainly Gantt charts, where we've the added benefit then of being able to manipulate the information and work through it, but then display that information how it suits someone else. That's a bit more on what you can do with this Gantt view and the project reports that you can kind of export it to. Taking it back to something a bit lighter now is what we can do with the Capture Toolbar. Just going to load up a template again, just to remind those that were at the basic session or those that weren't. Any templates you save, create a mind map, click on Save As Template, just populates into your Templates folder on this Home tab. And I can choose my trusty product launch then that I can load up again if I'd like to. The Capture Toolbar is accessed from Insert. Click on Insert at the top, Capture. You press that, you'll have something like this appear, wherein we can screen grab something, highlight text, or collect audio. This works exactly the same, basically, only it's on your desktop as the mobile companion app would. Just so you know, the mobile companion app with MindView 9, as with this, is a feature wherein you can be out and about or in a team meeting with your mobile, and you'll have the ability then to capture audio, take a video, take a picture, or even just write out some text, and then have the ability to drag it into the mind map to inform you of something you need to do, or it'll help you build out your project. So Capture here under Insert Capture, when you've access to this, if you don't already, allows us to do the same in the desktop version. Again, this is something to excite you of how easy it could be to add in some information then when you're up and running with it. So basically, if we go picture, I can screen grab something. Say I've got like 2 screens and I want to capture this image or photograph of something. You can see I can do all the usual things to it by way of cropping it or flipping it, adding in a QCR code or anything. I can title it and give it keywords, color code it for that visual cue or prompt, whatever I need to do. And then when I save that, what it's going to do then is just populate into our research folder on the right. Where we accessed earlier task, calculation, you'll see pictures and icons as well. If you want to add in graphics or images to your mind map, that's where you'd go. Right at the bottom then is research, which links to the Capture Toolbar or the mobile companion app. Meaning I can then really easily capture information and drag it onto the mind map if I'd like to. The same thing works for text. So if you click text, this appears. And then when you capture text, it gives you the ability to highlight that text. That text would then appear over here, and we can pull that across and add it in as a text note to one of these branches. Screen grab, it's capture when you've access to it, that is, and then picture under the Insert tab. Lastly, what you can do here is audio, which I think is super beneficial then if you're the sort of person that likes internalizing or like having that inner monologue to improve learning or understanding of something. Because what you can do here then is just capture the audio information. So someone else could be saying this, or you could. Once you okay that then, you have the ability to provide a transcription of that audio note. Again, title it, add in a keyword or color code it. And then when you save this one, you'll see with the research tab open now, it just actively does that when we press it. This is my audio note that I can then drag in to something relevant to sales, for example. And again, we'll know something lives within one of these branches because it has this paperclip here. Only when something is there, in terms of information like this, will that appear. Then audio note, if I press this, perfect. You can see then that you can listen back to anything that you've documented or that other people have said that's relevant to what you're working on. It may be easier for you then to pull in that information, produce your best work, because you're listening to a task maybe that someone has given you, and then you can pull that into a mind map you're working on or put it in the Kanban board, reminding you then of what's been said. Beneficial in so many ways, but just on a productivity level, I think really transformative as well. So the video for the mobile companion app, that's the one I don't think you guys would have access to. That allows you to record something. So if you then add that into the research panel and then pull that in, that then in the same way as the audio node pulls up the video player where you can play that video. I suppose the best way of working that is either adding in to the home tab here, the hyperlink to that YouTube video, just adding that into the branch instead. Or if you want the video there from a video player, not the link through YouTube, just record it when you have access to the mobile companion app, which is with MindView 9, then just add that in as the recording instead. It's kind of the two ways to do it there. Probably makes a bit more sense to just add it in as a hyperlink, being totally honest, but whatever works for your workflow and what your preference is what you should do. So hopefully that makes sense. The mobile companion app, as with AI functionality, which we mentioned in the basic run through, as well as the Kanban view, the U-wheel view, those are MindView 9 specific. The U-wheel, I haven't showed it, probably won't. It's just plotting things down based on that start date into a U-wheel. And we use it a lot here then for understanding what events we're going to throughout the year and that kind of thing. And then you can easily show that to someone else and they can really easily understand it too. So hopefully that makes sense. The last thing I just want to leave you with here is our built-in task management system. That is then, if we go File and Task System, this, maybe David can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think this one is specific to MindView 9 too. So then we would go to Task System when you have access to it. Again, sorry if this looks like I'm kind of teasing new features, but I've been reassured that it is on the way. And I think it's always worth getting ahead of the game, because what you can do then is just watch back the recordings and be prepped for ready when you have access to this kind of stuff and you can play around with it. But you'll have Task System then. So where we accessed home and import exports, this Task System will appear. And this then is where I can really easily assign myself or someone else I'm working with, so within my organization, a task. Just add task. I can entitle it. So complete my work. Description for completing my work is upload videos to YouTube. This cursors, yeah, interesting, isn't it? For DWP sessions. I'm going to do that today, and I'm going to try and get it done for you guys latest tomorrow. High priority, because I don't want anyone shouting at me. I haven't done anything to do with it. Not related to a specific project, and I'm the owner. But if I can select this, you can see it there. I can just pull up anyone. So I've got David in here that I could assign the task to instead of myself if I wanted to. But then I'll save. So now I've got a task appearing in my task list that lets me know that there's something I should complete. So then what I can do is just make sure all my tasks are synced, but then go back to my home screen and you'll see I've got my task there for complete my work. Naturally, if this was sent to David, it would appear then in his task system when he opens MindView. We can send each other tasks then if we're working on a group project to let each other know who's done what and who's working on what, essentially. And if we click into it, we have the ability to delete it. We even see it then in our calendar view in MindView, which I think is really cool if you're building out a lot of tasks and you want that, again, visual approach to finding out when you need to do things, when you need to complete them by. It's always nice to see that in this kind of calendar overview, I think. So when you've access to MindView 9, there's lots to check out. AI hopefully is something you can use, but certainly the task management system. And if you've access to the mobile companion app, that's the one. I'm just going to recap quickly, and then I'll go through any questions that maybe we haven't gone through so far. So if you bear with me, I do appreciate your time, and thanks for bearing with me to get to this point. But essentially what we've gone through is the import. Just bear in mind there that it is dependent on it having that header and scheme. When you open Word, it'll be Word styles at the top. Make sure you put 1, 1, 1. That's your header and subheader. Otherwise, it'll just populate a mind map for you with like 100 different branches. So when you import, best way to learn then is to export first. You'll know exactly how it should look. Import that document, and then it'll create something like it did earlier for us. The calculation tool, there's lots of different things that you can use that for outside of what I've used it for today. I just went through really basic cost times hour is total. But remember to just press twice when you build something out in this default panel or bar, something like that, because that then will allow us to go through different functions and set them as the default, and then play around with the exports and imports with Excel as well. See what you can do there. Conditional formatting. So for those of us that like the visual cues then that if a task is in not started, it's red or completed green, to give you that sense of accomplishment. Honestly, try it because it's beneficial. Even a small change like that can be super transformative to your workflow. Also then the Gantt chart view, where it's based on drag and drop. You can update things in the outline panel on the left if you'd like to, just extend it outwards. I find it's easier doing it here. We can just pick a task up, move it wherever, and everything auto updates for us. And we can add that information in the task panel on the mind map view. Just at the top here where we would have accessed calculation earlier. And then these are some specific rules because we're in Gantt tools that we can change then, i.e. change our project calendar, baselines, or create that project report that we exported out to. The Capture Toolbar. With MindView 9, you should have the mobile companion app. Of course, if your data governance security teams allow it. The Capture Toolbar allows you to capture information easily then in-app or on the desktop version, i.e. screen grabs, audio notes, highlight text, and add that in as text notes. And lastly, there's a task management system with MindView 9 wherein you can send yourself or the people in your organization different tasks to demonstrate accountability if you're working on a group project. But also then it just means that you've got your own nice personalized task list that you can even see in a calendar view, again, if you're a more visual worker. So hopefully that format suited better. It's less of like the story and guiding you through everything. It's more just, this is something, and this is kind of how you do it. But if you'd like more of these sessions, let me know. I'll put the forms in again that I did earlier, just because it helps us then with developing certain things. And if there's anything I can do to improve, for example, I'm all for it. Takes 2 minutes, fill it out if you want to. If not, no problem at all. But I will stick around now with any questions that anyone might have or anything specific that you need for the next 9 minutes. But I appreciate it coming into lunch now. So if you've nothing, just want to thank you for your time. And I will hopefully see you on the next round of training sessions and these kind of demonstrations that we run through. But yeah, thanks again. And I hope you enjoyed it at least. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, we'll add in some step-by-steps and more like short snippet videos as well to help with focusing on the information. I can understand it's a lot to take in, certainly if you're not used to using this. Sometimes take for granted that I've been using MindView for a little while now, so it may be easier for me to pick up on certain things just by virtue of using it longer. But yeah, we'll go through and yeah, if you feed it back, I'll send the recordings out, so I'll either put them on Vimeo or YouTube, and I'll link to them all for you then, so it works and you can watch both back. Yes, for any questions, please put them in this chat. Happy to stick around until 12 to answer them. My colleague, yeah, hopefully we can answer any worries or concerns you've got. I'll have to get back to you on the Chromebook. I know we have a Mac version and an online version, but the online version doesn't have all these project management features. So I suppose it would depend on what you're wanting to use it for primarily. If it's like the report writing side of things, all of that works fine. Exports, for example, but if it's this project management or Gantt chart stuff, then this wouldn't be included in the online version. Not yet, at least. Yes, my advice is to create a mind map and then go to, if you go view mind map, I'll show you quickly. What you want to do is add in the numbering scheme from the home tab to your mind map. So when you export it, you'll see or be able to understand how it's structured. So you got your central topic. You'll see 1 here is planning, and then 1.1 is the subheader. And then if there was a text note here, as with this one, that would be the body text. You just need to make sure it's in that format. And I just think the easiest way of doing that is starting here, exporting that, then importing again what you've exported to see how it looks and how it works. That just may be an easier way of doing it, basically. That's home, numbering scheme. Just home tab at the top, numbering scheme. You can select one. It just updates it for you on your mind map. Any more for any more? Any other questions? Anything that you want to try and totally discombobulate us with? That's a great question. I'm not too sure. Yeah, not too sure of a Play Store app. The mobile companion app will be in like Android and Apple apps or the stores there, but I don't know about like a full version of MindView being downloaded that way. I'm not sure. The lucid questions we'll have to get back to you on because I'll need to investigate that a bit more. So in the person that's been helping me with this, for the person that just said they haven't been able to have access, is Bina. So maybe feedback to her a bit more of your access problem, and hopefully she can let you know, or maybe others can help in the chat as well. Perfect. I'm glad you think that you would find it useful, and I'll get the recordings up as quickly as I can. One-to-one sessions are absolutely fine as well. I have no problem in doing them. Yeah, written work, absolutely. I'll cover all that off as well. Good idea. Bina is wonderful. I can agree with that. She's been more than helpful with setting all this up. So yeah, she's fantastic as far as my experience with her as well. Just to corroborate what you said. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you find it useful. Yeah, beginner sessions, that's no problem too. Thank you. I've learned from the last time where I maybe went through it a bit too quickly. So I've broken it down, and yeah, thanks for your feedback. I'll try and maintain this for any future sessions. I'll get back to you on the one-to-ones. I'll speak to Bean on how best we should do that. In terms of adding tables and graphs, you would probably need to do that in Excel. What you should do there is maybe use calculation for the cost analysis and then move it to Excel because it exports out to that, and add in your graphs and images that way. Enjoy your afternoon as well. Sounds like lunch to me. Yeah, that's cool. You know, everyone learns at different rates. I'm a slow learner as well, so you know, I can totally appreciate just our brain analyzes and then stores away information differently. Maybe we're more visual workers, which is perfect for something like this. And one-to-ones where we go through more hands-on as well. Thanks, everyone. Does anyone have any more questions? I'll leave it go till 12, but just want to thank you all again for your time, and I'll get the recordings out to you. Good question on Bina's email. I'm just going to put it in there now. I hope she won't mind me doing this because I don't want to blow up her inbox or anything, but I think it's beneficial if you guys have a lot of questions. So it is. I'm just going to put it in for you. This cursor is crazy. There we go. I hope she doesn't mind me doing that, but I'm sure if it's just MindView related, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Brilliant. I'm glad they've inspired you to use mind mapping, by the way. That's awesome. Ah, such a massive game changer. I think I just need to reduce the size of mine now. It's yeah, it's about 2 inches long. And remember, guys, these are just like introduction sessions to the basics and the advanced stuff. If you want to go through nitty-gritties or want to get additional sessions booked in, feed it back to Bina. I'm sure she'll help us organize something, because at the end of the day, it's just about helping you guys make the most out of something that should improve your workflows. They're happy to pile in and help with whatever you need. Ah, brilliant. Really good idea for the use of icons, to be fair. Gives you that like visual approach to it as well, which is all about what MindView is. Thanks, everyone. Stick around for like 1 or 2 more minutes, but otherwise then I'll close things out at about 2 minutes past. Go and get your lunch and get your fill. I know I will. Get out and enjoy the sun if you can as well. Thanks again, everyone. And I think that's all she wrote, guys. So I'm going to close everything off, but hopefully I'll see you all again soon in another session. The one-to-ones, feed it back to Bina first, if you wouldn't mind. I don't want to step on any toes there, basically, but happy to do them. So if Bina gives it a green light, maybe we'll get, depending on experience level, different groups in different sessions, and just keep providing this training. I think it's really important. But yeah, to be decided, basically, to be confirmed on that one. Thanks, everyone. I'm just going to close it out now, but I'll see you at the next one. Feed it back to Bina for me. Fill out the forms for me if you want to. But otherwise, have great days, and I'll catch you again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.